Hello, hello, hello. I guess I should pull my thing up. There we go. Hey, happy Thursday. I don't know why it's looking so fuzzy, but oh well. Welcome to Lighten Up with Latisha. I'm your host, Latisha. Welcome to Thursday. It's Throwback Thursday, where we are talking about the final chapters of the Best Man final chapter. So, welcome. I can see that there are people on the live, but I can't see you unless you say something. So put something in the comments. Let me know that you're here so we can get ready to chat. Hey Elle, I see that you're here. Welcome. Welcome. I'm so excited. Y'all, these two last two episodes were power packed. I think we should go ahead and get started. But again, I just want to let you know you are here with Lighten Up with Latisha. Lighten Up with Latisha is my way of giving joy to the world, sharing joy together. We're here to lighten the load, lift each other up, and laugh all the way through it all while we're sprinkling some nostalgia. So, while we're talking about whatever issues we're talking about, we're tackling those real issues, okay? We're solving them through life lessons, and of course, by laughing them off because laughter is therapy. So, we're going to get into, first of all, let me get my commercial in. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. This is my new YouTube channel. I will have other content on here, other videos that won't be live, but we're still going to be talking about lighten up with Latisha, things we're going to be laughing about. Again, sprinkling that nostalgia. There's a YouTuber called Struggle TV Reviews, and I just love her channel because she talks about something similar to what we were doing when we were on Instagram and kind of breaking down all of the, we did sitcoms, black sitcoms. She does movies, black movies. So I will be bringing that content, even though we did it already. We're gonna do it over here again on YouTube to talk about, so we can add more people to the conversation to talk about those things that we already talked about in our black sitcoms because we can never get enough of it. I mean, there's whole Instagram pages dedicated to us, um, having this nostalgia. So, welcome. You still haven't seen the episodes? That's okay. We're recapping, so it's all good. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Feel free to watch the other videos as well. I recapped all of the episodes. This again was just power packed. So I'm gonna go ahead and get going. So it starts off with Q being in the hospital because when we left off at the last episode, he collapsed. So come to find out, he had um, a minor heart attack, and while it wasn't major, didn't have any long lasting effects, he did have some restrictions that he was going to have, and that includes like no drinking, smoking, salt, and intimate moments, at least for several weeks. So, and Shelby is there with him, of course. She's like, no intimacy, because she's really been on one. So, anyway, it was kind of funny, but he is doing okay. Then we go to, oh wait, Harper and Jordan then show up together. Shelby notices and asks where they've been. So, remembering this is the night after Harper's premiere for the movie. So they had an after party. So they had to explain themselves that Harper and Jordan were both at the after party, and they were the only ones there because no one else showed up. And then they decided, then they were kind of fumbling over each other, made it look really suspicious. Don't forget, Harper is married and Jordan is friends with his wife. So moving on. All right. So they did a flashback, and we're going to refer back to the flashbacks because the flashbacks were kind of here and there throughout the episode. But the flashback is back to that evening because what we're trying to do is find out what happened between Jordan and Harper after the premiere. So they started off with because they figured out they were the only ones there. They decided to go take a walk. And although they shouldn't have, because when it's your big night, you want to celebrate and not have any bad news, but they started reading the reviews of the movie. And people were not really liking the reviews. So that was kind of a bummer, but it did appear that they were also it appeared that they were maybe drunk and they were riding a merry-go-round. It was just very interesting. But then okay, so then we move to another scene because we'll get more flashbacks later. So then Harper comes home. Now, mind you, he comes home after the after party, after being at the hospital. So now it's well into the next day. And Robin is like, "Oh wow, welcome home. Hope everybody's okay. Hope Q was okay and all that and everything." But she goes on to share. She's like, "Have some good news." She was offered a position as a as a guest chef on what's called a nomadic dining experience that was offered in Ghana. And what that meant was she was going to be the guest chef for the summer. And so she went on very excited to talk about, oh, yeah, we're going to have such a great time. We. Harper is taken aback by the whole we conversation. But he continues to say that he's down, even though he was acting like he was like, oh, you're not going, by yourself. No, she expected for her whole family to be able to go, remembering that Harper is a writer and he can write from anywhere. So anyway, they start like doing some chants or whatever to say, yeah, we're going to Africa, we're going to Africa. And he made a little comment like, oh, not just you. So he's already, this is what I don't like about Harper and Robin. They just don't communicate well. She's just like, she's got their whole family gallivanting off to Ghana without talking to him. And he's like agreeing to it without actually agreeing to it. You know, you're going to see that it's going to be a mess. So meanwhile, now we're at the school. And the kids at the school, this is the school that Candace and Merch have. And the kids are very excited. They run up to Mr. Merch and said, Merch, um, because they found a video of him or saw a video of him, his MMA fight. They were super excited. And now he doesn't realize, he clearly doesn't do very much on social media because he didn't realize he was on there. He didn't realize it was, he was visible. But he ended up taking the phone from the student and he tried to act like it wasn't a big deal, even though it really was. But I think he wasn't really trying to get into it for like any kind of fame or social media anyway. He was doing it for an outlet for himself. So meanwhile, we're at the Spivey house, and Shelby is basically trying to turn the house vegan because of all the restrictions that Q has. And so she's being very diligent about uh, making sure that things he has is healthy and that he's not doing anything he's not supposed to be. She even sold his Cuban cigars on eBay. And that might have been going a little far, but she was just worried, wanted to make sure that he was going to be okay. He even tries to bribe Kennedy for a burger. Just because he wanted some kind of semblance of his his life beforehand. So that was a cute little scene. Kennedy was like, "No, I'm not giving you any of my burger." Mom said she would double whatever you try to bribe me with, so it's a no. You're gonna be healthy, and that's that. Okay. So then we go to Jordan checks in with her doctor, and her doctor is still concerned because just last week we talked about how Jordan blacked out to the point of blindness. She couldn't see temporarily and all that sort of thing. So she was told to sit her down so that she can, get herself together. And like I said, her doctor said she's still a little concerned about her levels, and the levels show that it's a possibility that she might be pregnant. Lord have mercy. So we'll get back to that conversation in just a second because we're going back to the school. Again, I did not categorize these. I should have, but I'm just going basically by how the episode went. So an angry parent comes up to the school and to cancel her study session with Keisha, which is Merch or Julian and Candace's daughter, because her daughter overheard that basically in their home they were experimenting with those herbs, which they are, but it is part of Candace's her it's part of her dissertation for her PhD. Is also they're trying to find a more herbal or more natural remedy for her daughter's anxiety. And so they are trying out certain things at home. But she gets upset because, well, then she takes that information because the parent was just very upset. So they go to the office. She tells Keisha, "You don't tell people what's going on in our home or whatever, blah, blah, blah." And then Julia stands up and says, "No, wait. Now you have to understand that it's going to take some time for what you're doing is pretty unorthodox, and it's going to take time for our family to understand even the verbiage we need to use whenever we need to talk about it." And she was like, "That's the point. You don't need to talk about it." But again, now this is their communication issue. Candace is like, "You need to support me." And Julian's like, "I do support you, but just because I support you doesn't mean I have to agree with everything you say." And I agree with that as well. It's just that they're not communicating about it. You can't just follow people blindly. And again, you're experimenting. And it's one thing if you want to experiment in your own home, you do have to be careful about how that, I mean, she's still a child. So, um, you can expect, I don't know, how we black folks, we child cannot be holding so many secrets we don't need to hold. And for too many generations, we have held too many secrets and shouldn't have. And so that's a whole nother issue. But in this particular case, Candace is she's just doing what she feels she needs to do. But unfortunately, yeah, it did get out. And so they're gonna have to do. Now then we get to Jordan and Demetrius. He walks up on her and on the street, brings her something to drink, like a coffee or something. She said, "I'm laying off of caffeine these days." And she said, "Listen, I love the way she put this. And I think this is a really great way for us to learn how to be honest with each other when we're just not feeling somebody." She says, "I just don't think that our values are in alignment." So that was her way of breaking up with him and explaining to him without going too far because he already knew what she meant anyway. He owns a company that invests in private prisons. So then they ended up having the entire conversation, which I think is an old conversation of the plight of Black people. I remember it was very similar. When we're talking about even when apartheid was going down, they were talking about companies that were divesting and those that weren't. And then there was always a struggle. Even with since we talk about Black sitcoms, when there was the episode of where Kim decided to give up her scholarship because it was sponsored by a company that support apartheid. And so I think as Black folks, we always have that conversation because some of us are like, "No, we cannot be a part of this. No, we can't support this. We need to separate ourselves." And other people are saying, we need to be in position. If we're in a position to get that money, then we can invest that into the Black community. And while I think there's validity on both sides, I just don't know. I'm with Jordan. I don't know if I could be in a relationship with someone and then tie myself, my heart, my money to a person who is investing in private prisons. And she even talked about the fact that in doing diversity and inclusion work, it helps her to realize that I want to support Black people and I want to invest in us and not invest in um the mistreatment of us. So they had an argument out on the street or whatever, but she was like, "I'm out, peace, and goodbye." And he said, "All right, well then, good riddance. It is what it is." But I would have been with her. I agree with her. So then Lance announces that they're retiring his jersey, his number, and they're having a ceremony for that. Then Harper gets a message from his agent that Hollywood is talking about making his book or the movie that he just did a sequel. Now, we'll get back to the sequel in just a second when we talk about him and Robin. But back to the Spivey home, Q is frustrated and he blurts out that because all Shelby is trying to do is keep her husband alive. She's scared. She's seeing that he's had these, obviously he had this heart attack. She just want to make sure that he's healthy. And so they begin to get intimate or whatever, and she was looking at her watch. He was like, "What are you doing?" She was like, "I'm checking your pulse." It was like, "What? I can't even get intimate with my wife. All the things I wanted to do that I did before, whatever, I can't do now, whatever." And he blames her. He says, "Well, maybe you're not good for me. I didn't have any of these problems until I got married and all this other thing." And I'm thinking, like, sir, he just having a fit. Y'all really, sir, you also didn't have 40-year-old bones. You know what I'm saying? You also didn't have 40-plus-year-old body parts and parts that have endured your 20s. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you need to get over yourself. But he had a whole fit talking about he'd rather be gone than have to deal with, all these restrictions on his life. And so he has his temper tantrum and he runs upstairs. It's not funny, but yeah, we'll get back to that. So then at the store home, Harper is taking calls instead of sitting down and eating dinner with his family. And then by the time he gets off the phone call, whatever, called food is cold, and she made something special, and that was supposed to be like at this point she's making meals that are would be what they would be eating in Ghana. And so she was making new items and everything, and one of it was part of it was fish. He was like, "Well, I'll just put it in the microwave." That made me laugh out loud because I was always taught, and I know it's just, I know they're at home, but I was always taught you don't put fish in the microwave. It just stinks up the whole joint. I definitely know that you don't take fish to work. I never take fish to work because it's offensive. The smell is offensive. So even now, I'm like, I don't put fish in the microwave. I'll eat it cold before I put it in the microwave. Otherwise, I'm like, you can just peel it, throw it in the oven or something like that. So I chuckled about that a little bit. So anyway, Robin goes to say that, hey, I see someone else has just joined in. Make sure you say something in the comments so I know who you are. I know that you're here. And again, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Okay, so Robin was really excited when she mentioned that. She was like, "Oh, Harper, just wanted to let you know. Did you realize that Ghana was on my actual vision board?" So she manifested Ghana for herself, and so now she's going to be the guest chef again for this nomadic dining experience all summer long, and going to be able to live out her dreams of just being on the motherland, cooking her heart's desire, and just making joy through food. So they're supposed to be doing this early June through mid-August. And then here go Harper talking about he may have some meetings for this movie sequel um, in mid-July. So this is where we're starting to begin to see that he ain't never been on board, but that he's starting to set up his excuses for why he's not going to go to Ghana. Meanwhile, starting to take a turn, y'all. So Lance is in LJ's room, removing all of their stuff and saying that LJ is just going through a phase. LJ comes in and kind of challenges Lance. "What are you doing? This is my stuff." Lance is like, "No, I'm taking this stuff to a women's shelter. This is just a phase you're going through." And they get into an argument. And it's no different than when, there's always a time when a son and a dad, a son and father always, they, they come together, and this was their moment. Um, so LJ goes to say something. I forgot what he actually said. And then, I'm sorry, what they actually said. And then Lance says, say it again, challenging and going back and forth. And then finally, LJ says, "Sometimes I wish it were you instead of mom." And then they leave. And I'm saying they don't forget LJ's pronouns are they and them. So now we're back to Jordan and Shelby, who are now talking. Shelby is talking about how Q was acting up, about this diagnosis from his for his new health regimen, and Shelby talks about the fact that she might be pregnant. Shelby is like, "Girl, is it Harper's?" Basically, like, you, mm-mm. or is it Demetrius? She was like, girl, no. She said, listen, don't try to play me. I know something happened between you and Harper on the night of the premiere because just too much stuff was going on. She was like, listen, if you did do something, and because she was like, I like Robin. Robin's really cool. You know what I'm saying? She's like, girl, take it to the grave because don't be messing up the friendship because y'all wanted to do whatever. Check yourself and keep it moving. So now meanwhile, back to Lance. I should have said this one earlier, but so Lance is still in the room, whatever. He's just repeating his little sad prayer, talking about, praying for LJ to change. Praying for LJ. Lord, please help him to change. Please help him to change. Faith comes in and says that LJ did not come home. So Lance was like, well, they're just trying to cool off. Don't worry about it. They'll be fine. Meanwhile, the Stewart family is eating again. Harper reveals that they want to do a sequel of the movie, right, y'all? But listen, the sequel is going to be focusing on the story of Jackson and Kendall. And if you know anything about The Best Man, the Jackson and Kendall characters are the Jordan and Harper characters. Those were their characters. Imagine telling your wife that the one that got away that you wrote about, now you're gonna do this. I mean, the first book and movie was already scandalous enough. And now you're going to focus specifically on the characters that you know are based on real people and the one that got away. And you're telling this to your wife. There's so many things about Harper that I have such disdain for him because he's serious and all Harper seems to think about is himself. And that goes on to show you in the conversation they continue to have because Robin then goes on, she goes to tell him about the itinerary for Ghana because she still thinks he's on board. And he just jumps right in. Oh yeah, and I have to and I got my itinerary for the movie deal and in the meetings I'll need to have. And now they basically see where they're overlapping. And he was like, I'm doing this so that we can have we can have 20 trips to Africa. And she's like, but I'm just asking you for one. I'm just asking you for one. Now, meanwhile, they go back to Julian or Merch, and he tells Candace that he's planning to go out. He has a meeting, and then he's going to go and talk to Q. But that's not really where he's going. Candace then sees that Dr. Temple, who just tried to SA her last week, is being honored, and she was set off to the point because he tried to fondle her last week. And so she was like, he's being honored, and you just out here being a predator. And so she started off on a letter campaign pretty much to write a letter to the administration about. Now, meanwhile, back to Harper, Robin says she goes to him. She says, you know what? I've had enough. He's like, had enough of what? She says she's just had enough. She's done. He's not going to change. She's done with the situation, period. Again, them not communicating well because she should have just said, listen, I'm basically getting ready to file for divorce, which is exactly what she ended up doing. But in the middle of that conversation, the guys text and then the girls tell Candace about Merch. There's a viral video of him while he is preparing to take the stage for his next MMA fight. And they all run. So Harper was there, Lance was there, Q was there, and Candace was there. So they all ended up getting a chance to actually watch him in the ring. And he did win. And it was such a great display of support for him. Candace got in the ring with him. They did the arms up together because he won and everything. She was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And he was like, "I just didn't want to tell anybody about it." So it was just a really great moment for them. And then it went on to be a better moment because Q then talks to Harper and tells him, "Listen, man, the movie really hurt Merch. That's why he didn't come. What you did, wasn't cool." So then Harper says, "Well, it was out of my control." Q called BS on that. And the old Q came back to tell Harper he's just not taking care of, his business. And um they got into a conversation about the fact that, man, you need to take care of your family. Telling her, like, listen, you're not doing right by your baby and your wife. You need to spend more time with them. You need to basically be going to Ghana with them. Now we're gonna head back to that flashback of Harper and Jordan. So once they left, remember I was telling you that I think they were drunk and they were on the merry-go-round, they were reading reviews. Then all of a sudden they were in Brooklyn at Jordan's place. And she pulled out these like rubber band balls. You know how you make a rubber band? You just keep putting a bunch of rubber bands around that forms into a ball. Apparently, they had put some messages in the rubber band balls back when they were in college, and she still had them. So it was kind of like treasure. What do you call it? They're kind of like those like when people bury um like I forgot what they called them. Like you bury a little thing, whatever, and you go back and look and see how many years later, whatever, if those things came true. So I forgot what Jordan said, but I remember what Harper said. Harper said that he wanted to get a Pulitzer Prize as well as the Ultimate Prize, and you can only guess that the Ultimate Prize was Jordan. They begin to kiss passionately, and then Shelby calls. This is when they got the call about Q, but Harper answered Jordan's phone. That's why Shelby was like, "I know yeah, something's not right. Y'all kind of suspect right now." Okay, so also during the fight, Lance ended up leaving to go look for LJ because he still hadn't heard from them, and LJ was not with Kennedy. So they find, and we see a scene where we find LJ's car, but they were nowhere to be found. So there was no blood, but they said they still suspected it could possibly be foul play. So the police were looking at that point. Um, Finally, Candace and Merch have a chat about the fact that he did his fight and that the things that he needed to do, feeling he needed that outlet. And I think it's because he felt voiceless for so long. And then she reveals that she wrote the letter regarding Dr. Temple, him attempting to assault her. And they decided that they were going to not finally, I hate to say it like that, but they decided they were going to be more honest with each other because they were both keeping that information from each other. So they wanted to be more honest with each other. Now Harper comes home and wants to talk, and Robin asks him about what happened premiere night. Of course, in the middle of the conversation, he gets a text about LJ being missing though. And the episode ends. Everybody's kind of making their way to Lance's house. But the episode ends with an excerpt from what I believe is his new book or part of the script. Remember, I told you it was going to be focusing on Kendall and Jackson, which was not Jackson, Kendall and I forgot what the other character's name was. Anyway, to be Harper and Jordan's characters. Um, and the excerpt talk about basically like they had their second chance, and it alluded to the fact that they actually did finish what they had started, or fulfilling their desires from college. But at this point, we still don't know what actually happened on premiere night. We don't know if they did or if they didn't. Dun dun dun. Okay, so that was episode 7. And let me know if you have any questions, if you have any comments about that. And even if you're watching the replay, what did you think about episode 7? How did you think it went down? What do you think about? Do you think that Harper and Jordan actually did the do? I don't know. I At this point I feel like they did. But we'll see if they did or not in 8. So now we're at oh, this should be chapter 8, not chapter 7. So chapter 8 is called Pieces of Us, and it begins with a flashback of Mia and Lance when LJ was born, when they were at the hospital. So then we see that Lance goes to the cemetery to talk to Mia for guidance. And he remembers all that Mia used to say all the time about love. She would always repeat the scriptures about love. Love never fails, love is patient, love is kind. But the main thing was that love never fails, love never fails, love never fails. And then finally he prays the right prayer, the best prayer. Lord, change me. Okay? Help me to understand my child. Change me. And I loved that scene because it is a reminder you can't change other people, nor do you have the right to tell people who they are. You don't get to define other people. We get to define who we are. And people need to respect that or not play such a large role in our lives. And if you want somebody to stop, you can't control what other people do. So you can say, Lord, either change me or remove me from this situation. That's the only thing you can do, because why be in turmoil, especially when it comes to your children? We need to be able to accept our children for who they are. They are not us. And when people say things like, oh, they're a chip off of the old block, or you're just like your father, you're just like your mom, you're going to be just like your. No, everybody gets the chance, and everybody has the right to be who they want to be and not have to live in the shadow of someone else, be that a parent, a sibling, or whoever. Okay, enough preaching. I'll move on. So now we're at Lance's house. The police is there, and the police are asking all the questions, and Lance is actually getting all the answers wrong. Thankfully, LJ's godmother, Jordan, is there, and she's able to answer the questions because they asked about pronouns, which I thought was really cool. I thought that that's a really good protocol for them to have, where now people are asking what a missing person's pronoun is. And so, Lance getting upset. What are you talking about? We're talking about my son. And Jordan says their pronouns is they and them. Okay, are there any tattoos or anything like that? No, he's not a tattoo guy. LJ has a tattoo on their left leg. It's a honeybee. She knew the things that Lance did not. And I love that. That's what godparents are for. I'm very grateful for, I love my godparents. My godmother still, I am 40 plus, and my godmother still sends me money every Christmas. I think that's sweet. But godparents, that's what they're for. Um, they're to fill in where your parents can't and don't. All right. So I also thought it was interesting too, because the police explained that kids like LJ sometimes have a higher chance of harming themselves. And so that was a nice PSA. Um, I'm grateful that in our community we actually have a shelter specifically for LGBTQ plus IA plus children, so that they have a safe, accommodating, comforting place to be able to go if they can't be at home. So then finally, Kennedy comes forward and says LJ's friend, she believes that LJ's friend may know where LJ is. So they set off into their own individual things to do. Like, for instance, Robin is cooking for the kids that are there and the people are there. The police guy is actually one of Lance's friends. And he told him, he said, I know you have a police scanner, but please don't listen to it because you just drive yourself crazy. But everybody's on board. Like I said, Robin is cooking. Q and Shelby have already been out doing, handing out flyers. Harper and Merch are getting additional flyers, and then Lance and Jordan are actually getting ready to go hit the ground running and actually start looking for him, or I'm sorry, looking for them, um, wherever. But also, they got the tip to go to the friend's place. So Jordan comes outside to say hello to Robin, and Robin snubs her. Now, by the way, Jordan looks super guilty, as she should. And this is where I feel disappointed in Jordan. I feel like, even in the writing, to be honest, I feel like after all this time, Robin and Harper have been married. Now, I'm not a fan of them being married in the first place because I'm not. I think they never should have gotten married. But uh, and I don't think they should have gotten married, but while they shouldn't have gotten married, they did. So you still need to respect people's marriages. And after all this time, Jordan and Robin have become friends. So why then would Jordan still take an opportunity and Harper still take an opportunity to um to get together? I just feel like it's a slap in the face to Robin if her and Jordan are cool now. So I'm sorry, I didn't see the comments before. My godparents have transitioned, but they were the best. I love them, miss them dearly. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And to your point too, this godmother I was telling you about, she's my last godparent left as well. Oh, that's not true. That's not true. I do have another godfather, but he was kind of a godfather by default. He was one of my dad's best friends, but the other best friend that was actually my godfather, he passed away. But yeah, that's beautiful. I love seeing that we still have godparents. My daughter's godmother passed away a few months ago, and so that was sad too. But I love how we're still passing that on to our children even now because it takes a village, and we need them. We need everybody on board. Need everybody on board, and it doesn't matter how old we get. We all need that community. So okay, I already talked about my disappointment about Robin and Jordan, but okay. So then it went to LJ's friend Lex's house. Lex is also non-binary. However, their parents are very supportive, and um Lex challenged Lance a little bit, even though you could tell in this scene that Lance was actually he was trying his very best. He messed up a couple of times on the pronouns, but he was trying, and you could tell that he was. And so I'm going to say the same thing I said last week, was that in this time where people are allowed finally to be able to be seen and to be who they are, I feel like we all need grace in it. And so, because there are people who definitely, we want to be respectful, but we're gonna mess up. And it's okay. I think it's okay. We apologize and we move forward. But I also feel like on the other side, please have some patience with people too. I don't think you should have patience to the point of disrespect, but I think that we just all need grace in this life period. So Lex is kind of being a little standoffish too about, like, yeah, no, I'm not sure where they are. Talking about LJ. But Lex's parents reminded her, their mom reminded them that, listen, we don't keep secrets in this house. So before Lex got a chance to say anything else, though, Jordan heard a description on the scanner, and she was yelling for Lance to come. So Lance ran to the house, or ran to the car, and when they turned on the scanner, he called the police officer that was his friend, and he was like, "Is it LJ? Is it LJ? I don't know. I told you to turn that scanner off." He's like, "Man, you need to just tell me. I'm coming right now," because the description was like black male, because that's what that would be the description. And then 17 to 19. Thankfully, though, whew, thank goodness, it was not LJ. But still, prayers up for whoever it actually was. But then also, so then they stopped, like at a gas station or something like that. Jordan went to go get some water. In the meantime, she gets a call from her doctor, finds out that she's not pregnant. And although she is relieved, she's actually really sad about it too. She has a very tender moment with Lance. Because you remember, it's so funny because Lance in the movie, he would always talk about, he was like, well, I love Jordan, like she my girl and everything. He said, but she too damn sassy and she, too damn independent. And he didn't have much, I don't want to say he didn't have much respect for her, but I think he just didn't have much tenderness for her, because he always felt like she was so much different than Mia, very opposite of Mia. And in this moment, you could see just how much their friendship had come. And he was, consoling her about it. He's just like, you would have really made a really good mom. She felt like, oh, I really thought this was going to be my last chance. What I liked about hearing Jordan's confessional, because we always see Jordan as the strong Black woman. She's always um, the boss and always on top of her stuff. And this was a very vulnerable moment for her, where she was like, you know what, I really thought this was going to be the first time in my life that I was going to actually say this was something that was out of my control. And I feel like this is going to be my last chance to have a child. And so, Lance again was consoling her. You really would have made a really great mom. And I thank you so much for being a part of my children's lives. Thank you for being what I couldn't be to them. So it was such a sweet moment between the two of them, and it really showed just how much Lance really did respect her. And also we got to see Jordan's vulnerability, in that she doesn't always want, she wanted to not be in control for once in her life, because that's, we don't know her any other way. So that was nice. Okay, so then Lance gets a call. We have LJ. So they run to this place. So Lex is there. Lex meets Lance, and Lance is like, "Thank you so much for calling." And Lex introduces Lance to Pastor Calvin, who has been a mentor to both Lex and LJ. And so Pastor Calvin opens up his church to give shelter and respite to children who run away, or who are on the street for whatever reason, but also specifically for the LGBTQIA community. So LJ is in the sanctuary, and Lance comes in. Oh, we really missed you. You really gave us a scare. And they say, sit down and listen down. The first thing that I learned was that God loved me. But I feel like if I'm not welcome at church and I'm not welcome at home, where am I welcome? Then they mentioned that they met Lex and Pastor Calvin, and revealed that pretty much that they saved their life. And so that was a great moment, because Lance finally was like, he apologized. I accept you. I love you. You're my child. And, and I want the best for you. And let's go. So they went home. And meanwhile, little Mia was at her grandmother's house, at Robin's mom's house, when they got that call about LJ. So everybody went to Lance's house. So Robin was telling her mom, she said, "Oh, just tell Mia that her daddy will make her French toast in the morning." So now little Mia's coming down the stairs looking for her French toast, and Harper is nowhere to be found. He is not in the home. She goes to get Robin, and Robin's basically like, not crying, but she's basically like looking sad in the bed. The next scene, Robin and Harper are in arbitration for divorce. Basically, they're talking about how they're going to divide things. And Harper's like, they can have whatever they need, whatever they want, whatever will make the least disruption. When they got to the assets, talking about the sale of the house, child, whew, Harper's like, what sale? I already moved out. They can have a house, so Mia can have a place to stay, a place that's familiar for her, a home that's familiar to her. And Robin was like, I don't want the house, which she never did. She never wanted that house. And she's like, well, where are you gonna live? Oh Lord, why did she reveal y'all that she was moving to Ghana? This is just so typical of their relationship. They never communicated. And now her reasons were awesome. And I'm all for, expat life. Because she's like, I want me to grow up in a place where she doesn't have to worry about people, discriminating against her because of her skin color or her hair texture, where she's not othered. And I love that. And I agree with that. It's beautiful. But in real life, y'all, you cannot just take your minor child. I mean, it might be a state, it might be per state, but you can't just take your minor child out of the country without some type of permission, specifically if you were married, some type of permission from that other parent. So anyway, so it was still he was caught off guard by it. He didn't know. So obviously he's very upset about it. So then he moved out, he moved into Q's house, Q and Shelby's house. At this point, the guys are talking to him like, dude, Merch is saying, just why don't you just go with them? You can write from anywhere. Because all I know is that divorces can get really nasty. They can get nasty, they can be expensive, and they're only going they or divorces when they get nasty only hurt ultimately the children. And Q was saying, man, you need to do whatever you need to do to stay in your daughter's life because the time you don't have with her is time you can't get back. Which I really believe was also not a dig, but I really think that he was speaking to his own situation with Kennedy, where he lost basically 10 years because Shelby never did tell him that Kennedy was his until they actually got married. Now, so 10 years went by, and it's like, yikes. Okay, so now something well, we hope it's a little bit more positive, but we'll see. Next, the New York Giants are retiring number 28, which is Lance's jersey. They're having a big, ceremony, and there's going to be a reception later on. So they're at Q's house getting ready because they're supposed to be getting, Lance is already there, but the rest of the gang is getting ready to head over to the stadium. And so they're all at Q's house. Ciao. Robin comes bursting in, upset. Where's Harper? Harper, where is Harper? Where is he? Harper, you filed for custody? Child. Mm-mm-mm. And this is how I knew, in addition to the conversations we had previously about Harper, it's exactly why we know, in my opinion, that he is a narcissist. I mean, these are fictional characters. He is a narcissist. That's what I'm gonna call him. He's trying to trap Robin in this marriage, in this house. The stuff that she does not want. you know, and I just find it very interesting that he's filing for custody when he barely spends any time with Mia as it is. How does that work? If y'all watch reality TV, it's giving Martell Holt. Trying to file for custody when you barely spend time. You don't even do what you're supposed to do with a child. You don't spend enough time. You didn't make that child's French toast. You don't have meals with the family like you should. He'll be off gallivanting, writing somewhere, which we've seen in other episodes. Whole episode he was not there at all. They just referred to him because he was off doing his thing, his writer's thing. How are you taking care of him? How can you just go on bouts of time and not be at home, and then now you want to act like you want to be her custodial parent? Just stop the madness. Just stop. So Robin hit him with an F you, that middle finger word, and then he starts calling her names, calling her fake ass Kuta Kinte. I was just doing too much. And then Merch steps in, tries to tell him that, listen, first Candace tried to jump in and tell him, listen, just calm down, whatever. You need to mind your own business. He telling her to mind her own business, and I'm trying to talk to my wife, and Merch is like, hold up, don't talk to my wife like that. You're not about to do all that. And he steps in, he said, I told you this was gonna get nasty. I told you this was gonna be like this. You're gonna mess up any chance of even y'all being friends because you can't get it together. And he was like, every time you get he was like, I have no choice. She's the one who wants the divorce. She's the one who wants to leave. She's the one who was very narcissistic, in my opinion. That woman doesn't want you anymore. You didn't do anything that you need to do. He was calling her selfish. when in truth, all he ever did in this relationship, and she combated with it, that what do you mean me being selfish? This whole relationship has been about you being selfish. Everything you wanted to have, you got. I supported you in everything. You want us to play like characters in your book. We're not characters, we're real people. We don't have to deal with this. You're doing too much. So when Merch came to tell him, he said, every time you get the opportunity to do the right thing or choose yourself, you always choose yourself. And then him and Candace leaves. And Shelby steps in. And she's like, what? She tried to be more reasonable. She's like, Harper, I understand what you're saying, and I understand how you feel, but she's her mother. And a mother knows what's best for a child. So then he started attacking Shelby. Oh, you know what's best for the child, but you let 10 years go by and not tell Q about Kennedy at all. He's attacking her. Now this don't have nothing to do with her and Robin, him and Robin, but now he's attacking Shelby. And why did Q agree? He was like, that's real talk. See, now as much, I love me some Q, I love me some Shelby. I don't feel like Shelby was right. I felt like she was wrong. But I also feel like the two of them have such a great relationship and they have really good communication. But I think that, and they also like operate in sarcasm, which I think is really funny. But this is one thing I talked about in a previous episode was that in real life, I don't think that Q would just be okay with how that was done. Like, and there was never a conversation about it. In my opinion, they need to sit down as a family and have a conversation about that. Because later on in the episode, Kennedy comes into the room when he's exercising and she barely speaks or whatever. He was like, listen, I pay all the damn bills here, whatever. I want some respect in my home. And then he had like a collapse. And she was like, oh my gosh, Dad, what's going on? What's wrong? What's wrong? She's coming over. Dad. He was like, did you call me Dad? She was like, yeah. And so she's calling, 911 and everything. He collapsed. Um, and but to me, I felt like that the three of them as a family need to have a conversation about their feelings about that entire situation. The time that Kennedy and Q lost because he didn't know that he was her father and she didn't know that he was her dad. I mean, he's always been in her life technically because they're all friends. And so he's always known about Kennedy. He's always known who she was. She called him Uncle Q until till she found out that he was actually her dad. But let's talk, but those will be real feelings. Kennedy has real feelings about it. I need Shelby to understand, I need her to be able to explain why she did this, whatever, and apologize to these two people that she loves about why she did this. And then Q being given his real feelings. I feel like he gave his real feelings to his boys, he gave his real feelings about everything else. Why are you not standing up to your wife to say, you know what, it really hurt me that I didn't know that Kennedy was my child, and now we need to try to make up for the time that was lost. And I feel like I lost some time with her, and that was your fault. So that's just my thing. I feel like they really need to have the conversation. So anyway, like I said, then I'm not Q, Harper and Shelby begin to argue, and then Jordan tries to step in. Now Jordan and Shelby are arguing. Finally, Harper and Jordan just leave, and nobody except for Harper then goes to the ceremony. Now y'all let the whole argument that y'all had overshadow the fact that your friend was being honored and his jersey was being retired. So they get to the party portion. Lance gives a very beautiful statement. You know how they're like on the red carpet taking pictures and everything. Of course, the reporters are like, "Oh, is your son going to be able to, is he going to follow in your footsteps?" Basically about football or whatever. And Lance said, "Well, if you mean," well, he actually explained because his publicist was like, "Oh no, Mr. Sullivan's not taking any questions." And Lynn's like, no, it's okay. It's okay. No, this is my family. Thank you so much for everything, whatever. And this is LJ. LJ is not binary. And they are, if by what you mean following my footsteps, they are going to love their family, love their community, and follow their dreams, then yes, that's exactly what they're going to do. Whatever they choose to do, and I'll support them um, a million percent. Very beautiful statement that was made. I love how Lance's demeanor changed and how much better their relationship became. That's what happens. You accept people for who they are, your relationship will be great. So only Hopper comes to the party, but he gets choked up when he sees Lance's family because he is feeling the aftermath of pretty much he's about to lose his family, or he sees it that way. He sees it as he's about to lose his family. And so he gets choked up and he said, "Hey, I just wanted to show my face, say congratulations," and he leaves. Now, again, it can be noted, should be noted, Harper always shows up for his friends. If only he could have showed up for his wife and daughter that way in his marriage, maybe they wouldn't be going through a divorce now. So, anyway, Lance is sitting with LJ and Faith, and he sees Jasmine across the room, and the kids were like, "Don't just stare, go over there and talk to her." So, if y'all remember, Jasmine is the tour guide that they had, or the tour director that they had in Saint Pierre that he met. But remember, he thought that she was getting married. And so he walks over to her, comes to find out that she lives there now. She basically is, I don't know what her position is, but she works for the Hilton there, and they are the ones who put on the reception for Lance. So now she's living there. Mm-mm-mm. So back at the Spivey house, like I told you, he collapsed. Kennedy calls him dad finally. Um, and Shelby, now while Q is trying to fight the the things that he had going on, his restrictions, Shelby is over here mourning her youth because she's getting caught up in this social media thing. The woman that played her in the movie went on to get this outrageous fame, and now she's like kind of a press correspondent, and she has lots of fans. And so you see where Shelby is kind of looking at her in the watching her be in this limelight, and she's really mourning her youth. um and later on, her and Q will have a really beautiful conversation about that as well. So then we go to Mia and Harper. Little Mia and Harper, they're just walking through the park, getting ready to eat and sit down. And basically, I love this scene because Mia, in this Out of the Mouth of Children, Mia teaches us to do more things that make us happy. Like, he said, well, maybe we can do a FaceTime later. I can read you, this book, this story. And and she said, yes, whatever this book was called. And he was like, okay, but we always read that book. She was like, I know, but it makes me happy. And I love that. And then she went on to say, and Daddy, you need to write more books like that, because all the books that's in, like, at school, and I don't know if she said at home, but she said at school, she's like, they're always about protests and how people that treat us bad. That was telling. And again, out of mouth of babes, we need more joy in our lives. And it's great that her mom is very fight the power. Her mom is, fighting for what's right and teaching her daughter and stuff like that. But sometimes we have to, part of that self-care and community care is that we do things that make us happy and give us joy and all that sort of things. And so the next thing was, um, Mia got up. They were getting their food together, and she got up and she walked over to a homeless person and gave them her food. And then she came back to her dad, and he was like, "That's really sweet of you." And she said, "Yeah, because she said, I know that I'll be able to eat. I know I can eat anytime, whatever." And so then he shared his meal with her. I mean, Harper did share his part with her, whatever. But it just listen to children, you know, watch their actions. It can be so simple, such a simplistic gesture, but it's so sweet and it's so real and it's so what's needed. So let's do things that will give us more joy. Another reason why we're here, this is why I do this on Thursdays, because it's meant to bring us joy, and for us to be joyful, for us to laugh and to love on more things in our lives. Okay. So then Shelby comes home to smoke and burnt food because Q is trying to make this cauliflower dish and trying to do this vegan stuff that Shelby started. It was really funny. He was like, because stuff was burnt and he was the alarms was going off. It was so funny. But they basically talked about their own issue. She said, listen, the reason why I have been so strict or whatever is because, I love you and I don't want to lose you. And I was scared and then they both declared that they would do better. He said, okay, I understand what you're saying. I was so embarrassed earlier. He thought he was having another attack. And come to find out it was just a pinched nerve. And he was like, I was so embarrassed by that. He was like, I just need to learn that basically, like, I'm not as young as I used to be. And I need to take better care of myself. And she said, yes. And I need to just say, F it. And I'm just going, I'm just aging. That's just the way it is. But I love that because they both laughed about it. And that's true. It's like, it's cool to just age gracefully. We don't have to live in our youth forever. I mean, we're getting older and that's good. It's fine. Everybody ages. It's all good. Just do what you need to do so that you can enjoy as you get older. Okay. So now we're back at the Stewart house. Harper brings Mia home and he tells Robin that he's withdrawing the petition for custody. He's like he said, Mia has your spirit and I don't wanna damage that. So I'm not going to contest. You have my blessing. And then the next scene, Robin packs up to leave, leaves the keys on the counter, and Harper is strapping Mia in her seatbelt, begging him to come. Daddy, I want you to come with us. And he was like, we talked about this. I can't come, but I'm gonna come and see you really soon. I'm gonna come and see you um a little later. And he shuts the door and then turns around and starts begging Robin to stay. Again, just selfish. Sir, you are a writer. You can write anywhere. You're not tied to anybody's desk. You're not tied to anyone's office. People in this world that we live in, people are taking meetings via Zoom, Skype, and wherever else digital viral, broadcast, they're always taking virtual meetings. Why is it that you feel like you can't move with them to Ghana? Now, I'm also not going to sit here and act because Robin was like, you can come to visit anytime. This isn't, you're not flying from New York to LA. You know what I'm saying? There are things you need to do to get into Ghana, and to be able to stay. So e- realistically, anyway. But yeah, I still feel like Harper is very selfish. Mia does, but Robin deserves to be able to do this, for herself and her family. So anyway, Robin does leave, and Harper's left in the house that he loves so much. He's depressed. He's laying on the couch, and then Lance rings the doorbell. He comes in. Merch comes in next with the food. Q comes in next with the drinks. Lance starts putting up the table and chairs. Merch is making plates. Q is making drinks. They all sit down at the table and they pull out the cards and they look over at Harper, who's still laying on the couch. They're like, "Hey, bro, we need a fourth, for their regular card game." I love the brotherhood, and to me, I feel like the brotherhood has been very pronounced in Best Man, the final chapters, and their friendship is completely unmatched. They hold each other accountable, they support each other, they love each other, they will they tell each other what they need to hear and not BS them all the time. I love that. So they sitting down getting ready to play cards and and Lance is like, we about to run on Boston on y'all ninjas. So you know they getting ready to play spades. Okay. So okay, meanwhile, Jordan is at work and she's getting bombarded by everything known to men. They're in the meeting. There's a crisis here in the meeting, a crisis there in the meeting. Then she has starting to get a bunch of messages on her phone, alerts here and there. She has this long to-do list that's just glaring. And someone asked her in the meeting, "What do you think, Jordan?" And she says, "I think I need to leave." To which she gets up and "You won't break my soul" begins to play, and she walks out. She left. She had a red suit on, had a little leopard print scarf, and she rolled out. Finally, she put her own self on her to-do list and she rolled out. The next scene, her and Harper are walking down the street. And he said, "I can't believe you quit your job." And she said, "No, I didn't quit. What I did was pivot. And so I'm still working on, like, she's still working on the show that Shelby works on. She's like, except she's in a consulting capacity. And she's also doing her own projects and again, putting herself first. But she was like, "Listen, I'm glad I got you out of the house." She says, "So what's next?" And he says, "Oh, well, maybe I'm thinking about moving to Brooklyn, which is where Jordan lives." She said, "No, I can't be your soft spot to land. I can't be your soft place to land. It's going to take time for you to heal from this, and I can't wait for you. If it's meant to be, then maybe we'll get that second or third, pretty much, chance." And he goes to say, "I don't know if I like this new self care, Jordan, but I'll support it." Very, again, just that's how Harper is, very selfish. But also, I noted that because um, we're going to find that when we decide to put ourselves first, especially Black women, because we oftentimes do so much more for everybody else. When we decide to put ourselves first, there's going to be people who do not like it. People who don't like it, people are going to shun you, people are going to stop messing with you. But it's okay because if they fall off because you decide to put yourself first so that you can be healthy and happy and whole, then it was okay. You needed to drop that weight. So she goes to encourage him to write his passion projects, be the artist that he's always meant to be. And then 2 years later, we're back where we started at the very beginning, where Harper is at a speaking engagement, where he is receiving his Pulitzer Prize for his new book. It is a Reconstruction era romance called Pieces of Us. Robin FaceTimes him, her congratulations. Little Mia is there to congratulate him and spend time with him. She came back with her grandmother. And we can see that Lance proposed to Jasmine with this humongous, beautiful ring. Shelby wrote a book. And we can see that Candace got, because at this point, they're doing like a montage of what happens in the upcoming, as well as start showing the bloopers, which were really funny. We can see that Candace got her PhD, as well as was featured on, I don't know if it was a book or if it was an article, but it was called Women Who Spoke Up. And that just speaks to her advocating for herself when she was um, when she was assaulted by her professor or advisor. And then that was pretty much, and that was the end. But I'm telling you, y'all, we could totally watch them for another 20 years. Like the stories were never ending, but I love this series because it talked about the things that we're dealing with right now, especially if you're in my age groups. I'm specifically talking to us for the nostalgia, it's the nostalgia for us and how we saw these people in the 90s, same around the same age as us, early getting married, starting to have children, starting careers, to now they're a bit more seasoned, now dealing with possible health issues, burnout, aging parents, um, spouses, divorces, um, buying things, selling things, pivots in careers. It's just a beautiful way of seeing the circle of life. And again, I could continue to watch this. This could totally be a continuing series. But again, our boy Terrence Howard has decided to retire. So I'm not saying he's the only reason, but he did mention that pretty much this is his last project. So I'm so glad he lended his talent as well as all of the other ones there. I just love a series where we can see all of the original players. And even we even got to see our glimpses of Mia as well and to see what the children are doing. So I just love the season. I appreciate y'all joining me this evening. I hope you enjoyed the recap. If you are in the replay gang, tell me what you thought about this series. We're going to be starting something new in February. We are going to be on that love kick because February is my birthday. So we're going to be talking about all the self-love, all the love stuff. And we'll probably start with finally, maybe doing the love language test. We'll have to see how we can gather that information. Maybe we can do it together. But anyway, thank you again for joining me with Lighten Up with Latisha. I'm here every Thursday. We're going live. Be sure to like, share, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to this new YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube, make sure you share it. Watch the replays of the other videos, and I will holla at y'all next time. Love ya. Bye.